I love this. Okay, guys, it's time for me to scoot on down to the other end of the couch so you can take my place on the hot cushion. Today, I'm going to discuss your fantasy football footprint and follow that up with some questions. Please keep in mind, I'm going to be very direct and brutally honest. So the questions are not going to necessarily be very easy. Is that okay?
I sign off on that, yes.
I second that.
Fantastic. Before we get into the meat of this potato, I would like to ask just a few things about you. Dan, what age were you when you decided sports was the way of life for you?
Man, I was probably not even 10 yet. Just grew up in a sports household there. My dad was a big sports guy. Was in my backyard pretending I was Tony Dorsett. So it started very early for me, Kyle.
That's pretty awesome. So I heard earlier Scranton was where you're laying your head down on the pillow.
The electric city.
Whereabouts do you live, JB?
I'm in Pittsburgh, so I'm on the other end of the state, the better side of the state. But yeah, I'm in Pittsburgh.
Fantastic. Yeah, so
I stay neutral in the middle. So.
There you go.
I had mentioned before that I had done a concrete canoe competition up there. So it was my last senior year in college where we, as civil engineers, built canoes out of concrete and raced them. And we did that while staying at Drexel University and having a good old time, man. It was, and we had a lot of fun in that city.
Hey, well, hopefully next year, Jeremy and John will be hosting you here in Scranton, PA. I made my pitch to Scott Fish.
Saw that?
Kyle, if you want to make a road trip from Texas, but we're ready to go.
There's a lot of us down here, and it sounds like, possibly the Dallas-Fort Worth Metro might be a hub. If it doesn't get chosen, I'm there. I am there.
I would be shocked if Dallas didn't get picked. Yeah, we've interacted with Ray a ton, Casey. I know they're both down there. There's a ton of people, and I'm obviously leaving out a lot, but I would be shocked if you guys didn't get one of the live draft spots.
Right. Katie Flowers is up there, north of Dallas, and then, Oklahoma Doug, he's up there not too far from North Dallas. I mean, he's basically just across the border. So, we got a lot of people, and Gary Haddow is there as well. So, quite a few people. We're loaded. But
everything's bigger in Texas. Kyle, refresh my memory. How far is Fort Worth from Dallas?
It's about 25 miles. We call it the Metroplex. So it's one gigantic metro. Really, you never leave the suburb between the two big cities.
Stockyards are in Fort Worth, correct?
Fort Worth.
That's right. So I was there right before the pandemic. We came back from the Stockyards. And that's when I was driving back to my family's house in Ulysses when I hopped on Twitter and saw Dez's tweet and ended up driving back to that gym not too far from Fort Worth there to ball it up with Dez. See, any free plug, JB. He's laughing,
You've mentioned me, Cole. You've mentioned Dez, but you haven't mentioned the third in the trifecta, Lenny.
And Uncle Lenny Fournette. It was a great game of basketball. They were just raining threes the most of the game.
Well,
I kept Dez in check.
That leads me to my third question. Dan, have you ever had an interaction with an actual NFL player that skewed your rankings or made you change how much you tried to put them onto your fantasy football teams?
Kyle, I am very guilty of everything you just said. And I think it starts with Leonard Fournette, McCole Hardman, and Dez Bryant here. I think I was in an NFC draft last week, and I took McCole. I took him instead of Alexander Madison, and I had Cook in the first round. I think that was my misstep of the draft. I should have waited one more round on McCole. So he's definitely a little higher because of that basketball game, and I'm holding out hope for Uncle Lenny, even though he's a hothead. And Dez is on the majority of my rosters, hoping he signs as a free agent. So 100%.
Love Dez. Man, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He went to the opposite college of me, the little brother of Oklahoma State, or Okie Light, as we call them. But we can't hold everything against you for your entire life. I think that's a part of what we say on the show, right? So I'm a beer guy, and I don't know about you guys because I know, John, you prefer maybe some of the seltzers, but I have to ask, do you guys have a favorite brewery?
I really like who does the monkeys, the sour monkeys and the golden monkeys?
Victory.
Yes, I really enjoy those. And I think for the most part, I will drink beer, wine, vodka, obviously the seltzers. But if I'm going to drink a beer, I prefer the higher alcohol content. And the sour and golden monkeys, they usually do the job. So that's kind of my go-to.
Nice.
I'm a lightweight compared to JB there, man, but I do like a good beer. I'm a Heineken drinker by preference. I think it's hereditary. My dad was a Heineken drinker, so that would be my beer of choice.
That's fantastic. So my final intro question, what is your favorite thing about off-season fantasy football?
For me, and this is for better or worse, there is that stretch, 9 months. You can't be wrong. Yeah, and I say for better or worse, on Twitter, you see those hot takes, and it's like you see it time after time after time. And we're at the point now sitting here in the middle of August, and they're takes that we've seen all off season. I can't take Jonathan Taylor or Clyde Edwards-Helaire anymore. I can't take I'm trying to think of different Joe Mixon talk. That's all Twitter every day. Joe Mixon is brought up. Robert Woods is undervalued. No shit. We talk about it every day.
Ronald Jones, Keyshawn.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Backfield.
And that's kind of why at this point in the offseason, I stay away from takes on Twitter, and I try to lighten it up a little bit. It's more somewhat entertaining. At least I think it's entertaining. I'll tweet something out and I sit there and crack up for like 10 minutes. And then a couple hours later, it gets 2 likes and I don't get it. But yeah, I think the fact that it's pure speculation, and especially with everything going on in the world right now, every little piece of information, anything that we can hold on to there, it really is, in a way, helping people get through their day with all of the crap going on in the world. So I would say the speculation and just being able to drag that take out for better or worse throughout the 9-month stretch.
This offseason has been absolutely unusual. So, to John's point, the hot takes are to nauseum at this point. It's just a different offseason. But what I enjoy and I love about the offseason, it's a little longer than I like because, just the football season's a blast. Once, you can't bet on any more DFS games, I get a little depressed. And football is my niche. I'll dabble in other stuff, but football is the only one I'm really hardcore in. But the off season's where I think you grind and you become a better fantasy football player. That's when, okay, what did I learn from last season? What did I do wrong? We talked about that humble pie John mentioned. Where did I make my mistakes last season? How do I become better? So it's building up to that point that's about to arrive in a few weeks where we're playing again and you're feeling really confident about everything you put in and studied. The only thing we're missing this year that we're just starting to get now is training camps. Being able to really dive in and see with your own eyes who's looking good in camp, and some beat writers that normally have a real good take, that they're really reliable. You start forming some opinions, and it was like last year's grind where I formed my opinions on DJ Chark and Mark Andrews. They were my hot takes, guys that I had a lot of conviction on going into the year, and it was just that whole body of work of listening to and watching so much content that led me into the season. So this year has been a little bit different because we haven't been able to watch as much. So it's been more, okay, hey, what haven't I done in the past? JB was really helpful with a nice spreadsheet for all my dynasty teams. I'm more organized than I was ever in the past. And, to me, that's just another plus going into my game this year. Broke down all my dysfunction and what I think of all the organizations, just things I would have never done otherwise that I think are going to help going into this season.
And Dan brought up a good point to kind of follow up on that. The off season is when we really spend our time as dynasty owners. Once we get into the season, it's in season roster management, start sit decisions, but it's during the off season that we really build the foundation to win those championships, or in my case, get to the championship and try to split the pot 50-50. But, whatever the situation is, I think it's more difficult during the season. And we even see it with our show. Throughout the off season, there's certain times that our viewership and traction we get is through the roof. And then once the season hits, it kind of, stalls a little bit to an extent because people transition into more that redraft mindset. Whereas in the off season, you're making trades, you're picking up, future draft capital, planting your flags on those specific players like Dan mentioned. And then once the season comes around, that kind of takes a backseat.
I think if I could add one thing, I think this offseason was very beneficial to all of us and our podcast, because even though we didn't have a lot of fresh news, the time John and Mitch were able to spend on their projections and the time I was able to spend on my rankings and even breaking down O-line more than I've been able to in the past, I think it's helped give us some fresh content for our show and will help during the season.
Well, I like that Brian Edwards' high school coach tweeted that he reminded him of AJ Green. So now it's time for the hard-hitting analysis and drama-laden questions. Are you ready?
Bring it.
Bring it.
Okay, I'm going to read these cold today. Playing for the Dallas Cowboys is an absolute privilege. Wearing the star is something that few wide receivers earn. One of the wide receivers from last year signed a 3-year contract with the Houston Texans and will not be back. Another one of the receivers signed a multi-year $100 million contract. But this other receiver led the Cowboys in yards per reception, 20-yard plays, and snaps. Who am I?
I think it's Michael Gallup right here on my wall.
I am Kyle Lapointe. I would have also accepted at Dogleg Brewer. It would have been fine to say Kyle on the couch. No, Michael Gallup was the guy I was talking about in the preface to that question, but no, unfortunate, you do not get the correct answer on question number one.
Sorry.
So
These are hard then. Jeez.
question number two. I grew up playing an ever-popular card game called Euchre. In this game, the jack of the suit called trump is the boss and is called the right bower. The jack of the other suit of the same color is called the left bower and is very good but not quite as useful as the right bower. John is married, like myself, so we are all aware of who the boss is. Mitch and the left are doing projections for this year's 32 teams, but started by releasing projections for a team that no longer exists. That is truly a tough way to start. What is the best brand of hard seltzer?
Man, I've gone back and forth on this, and I really enjoy it. I'm going to say Vizzy. I really am. I've done a lot of research. I put in a lot of hard time and hours there. I'm going to go Vizzy. I think the flavor combinations, it really whets the palate. It's intriguing. Yeah, so I'm going to go Vizzy.
Checking my answers, it says there are no good brands of hard seltzer. I'm sorry.
All
right,
I was gonna say none of the above, but I figured this was like a John question, so.
Hey guys, this is a lot of fun. I actually have to go.
I will say, doesn't Vizzy have like the best ingredients in terms of like none of them are good for you, but I think that's like it has the least amount of like artificial preservative.
Yeah, and there's antioxidants and vitamin C, so I feel healthy drinking it.
There you go.
I feel healthy drinking everything I
I
drink.
feel so healthy. I need
coffee,
another
beer. I call my coffee vitamin C. So you just mentioned that as well, but that's what we call vitamin C. All right, question number 3. It is always a problem when we work extremely hard on a computer only to have the computer crash. If we have a backup of our files, then we are okay. But sometimes even the backup isn't what you'd hoped it would be. It can also take quite some time to get back up and running after the bad news. Chumbawamba gets knocked down, but they get back up again. Play Vaughn, Keyshawn, pick round 3rd, Buccaneers, Bay, Tampa, but does position what? Rewind. Let me reverse it. Back up words like Judas Priest first did. What position does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3rd round pick, Keyshawn Vaughn, play?
Running back.
Don't say the bench. Please don't say the bench.
All right, we got running back, and that is correct. Backup running back, which is what he actually will be. But yes, he plays running back. Good answer. See, Dan, he paid attention. He answered the question.
We've had a lot of uncertainty in Hot Cushion. That was the most tentative answer I've ever seen. It's like a running back with a question mark at the end.
I accept it. It was the right answer.
All
right.
I am Ron Burgundy.
Exactly.
Question number 4. The 4 of us began to compete against each other in Safe League's Dynasty 289 Premium, open parentheses, SF/TE, end parentheses. That phrase is used loosely as the quality of drafting and overall skills of our teams vary drastically. Mitch drafted Ricky Seals-Jones, Jeremy took Darwin Thompson, and the left took Hunter Renfrow with Marvin Jones still on the board. There are many strategies that people take in startup drafts, so the 3 of you should be comforted to know that punting to win 3 years down the road is indeed one of them. Since at Dogleg Brewers' team is obviously head and shoulders above all others here, what are the odds that Kyle wins the inaugural season championship, barring COVID shutdown?
Well, based on the negativity with the seltzers, I'm going to give you a 5% chance.
True percentage chance is 8.3% repeating, which is 1 out of 12, because I am 1 out of 12 teams in this league. and I have the same chances to win as everyone else. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your candid and truthful answers and my insightful and hard-hitting analysis.